After 3 meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff believes a permanent peace agreement with Ukraine may be within reach. Days after extensive talks in St. Petersburg on April 11th, Witkoff expressed optimism about a potential breakthrough in the ongoing conflict. The U.S. envoy on April 14th said, "I think we might be on the verge of something that would be very, very important for the world at large. It took a while for us to get to this place, but I see a deal emerging after 5 hours of talks." The Petersburg meeting marks the third diplomatic engagement between Russia and the U.S. since President Donald Trump returned to the White House in January with a bold claim that he could resolve the conflict within 24 hours. Witkoff revealed that Russian President Vladimir Putin's request is for a permanent peace beyond just a ceasefire, though details remain limited. The discussions reportedly centered around the so-called 5 territories, Ukrainian regions currently occupied by Russian forces. But Witkoff emphasized the talks encompass much broader issues. There's security protocols. There's no NATO. Article 5. It's just a lot of detail attached to it. It's a complicated situation, rooted in some real problematic things happening between the two countries. Despite multiple meetings over the issue, Russian officials have moved to temper expectations about an imminent resolution. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov described diplomatic efforts as tense and ongoing following the recent meeting between Witkoff Putin to the statue and a prison reboot. There's a lot of hard work going on, as you know. There is exchange of information from the first person. I'm referring to the recent Putin's meeting with Mr. Witkoff in St. Petersburg. There are also other channels of communication in place. It's a lot of hard work. Of course, this is such a complex matter that it is hardly possible to expect immediate results. Nevertheless, of course, we would like to hope for the best that the work will still have positive results. I'd rather not talk about the exact time frame as here. More pointedly, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on April 15th acknowledged significant challenges ahead in finalizing any agreement with the United States. It is not easy to agree on the key components of settlement. They are being discussed. We are well aware of what a mutually beneficial deal looks like, which we have never rejected, and what a deal looks like that could lead us into another trap. Lavrov reiterated that Russia's position had been clearly outlined by President Putin in June 2024, demanding Ukraine abandon its NATO's ambitions and withdraw troops from territories claimed by Russia. We're talking about the rights of the people who live on these lands. That is why these lands are dear to us, and we cannot give them up. Allowing people to be kicked out of there while diplomatic efforts continue. President Trump has stunned observers by placing significant blame for the conflict on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, a day after Russia launched one of the deadliest attacks of the war on the Ukrainian city of Sumy on April 14th. He also blamed U.S.'s former President Joe Biden and Russia's president for the conflict. But that's a war that should have never been allowed to start, and Biden could have stopped it, and Zelensky could have stopped it, and Putin should have never started it. Everybody's to blame.
But that's a war that should have never been allowed to start. And Biden could have stopped it, and Zelensky could have stopped it, and Putin should have never started it. Everybody's to blame.
Have you spoken to President Zelensky, sir, about his offer to purchase more Patriot missile batteries?
Oh, I don't know. He's always looking to purchase missiles, you know. He's against... Listen, when you start a war, you got to know that you can win the war, right? You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size and then hope that people give you some missiles.
Vice President J.D. Vance this time again joined the fray to lead an attack on Zelensky following a spat at White House in February. Vance criticized the Ukraine president for suggesting that Washington is siding with Russia in the conflict. I think it is sort of absurd for Zelensky to tell the U.S. government, which is currently keeping his entire government and war effort together, that we are somehow on the side of the Russians. Members of the Trump administration are not on anybody's side. We are on America's side. The Ukrainian president has, meanwhile, extended a pointed invitation for President Trump to visit Ukraine before finalize any deal with Russia, urging him to witness the devastation of the conflict personally. Please, before any kind of decisions, any kind of forms of negotiations come to see people, civilians, warriors, hospitals, churches, children destroyed or dead. Zelensky implored in an interview for CBS's 60 Minutes program broadcasted on April 14th. Relations between Trump and Zelensky have deteriorated significantly since the U.S. president returned to office, reaching a low point during a tense White House meeting in February, where Trump reportedly accused Zelensky of gambling with World War III. Zelensky's invitation follows the heated row at the White House in late February between the Ukrainian President Trump and U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, which played out in front of the press during the event. Vance accused Ukraine of hosting foreign leaders on propaganda tours to win support. Zelensky repeated his denial of that allegation and told CBS that if Trump chose to visit Ukraine, we will not prepare anything. It will not be a theater. You can go exactly where you want in any city which has been under attacks. Trump is pushing for a quick end to the more than 3-year war with the United States, holding direct talks with Russia despite its unrelenting attacks on Ukraine. That a potentially controversial aspect of the U.S.-Russia diplomatic engagement is the prospect of business relationships with Wyckoff, suggesting on April 14th that commercial ties could help stabilize the region. I believe there's a possibility to reshape the Russian-U.S. relationship through some very compelling commercial opportunities that I think give real stability to the region, to partnerships, create stability. This economic dimension comes as negotiations on a separate deal that would give the U.S. priority access to lucrative minerals in Ukraine reportedly got off to a difficult start after Trump and Zelensky had a blazing argument in the Oval Office late February. Meanwhile, Lavrov indicated that Russia's political elite would not consider any arrangements that led Russia back towards economic, military, technological, or agricultural dependence on the West, claiming that the globalization of the world economy had been destroyed by sanctions imposed on Russia, China, and Iran by the previous U.S. administration. As peace talks continue amid ongoing violence, the possibility of resolving the conflict that has devastated Ukraine since Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022 remains uncertain, with fundamental positions on territorial claims and security arrangements still seemingly far apart.